Since 1947, the Martinsville Speedway has been host to motorsport. Tonight, it is host to the SimPossible K&N series here on 3 Wide TV. This track, with 2 tight corners on either end, has come to be known as the Paperclip and the half mile of mayhem, and I expect to see a little bit of that here tonight. I am Peter Short, and I'm joined in the booth tonight with Carlos Acosta. Carlos, this track always puts on a high-intensity, action-packed race, and I expect to see nothing less here tonight.
Yes, it's definitely something that's very much of a challenge, even for a driver like ourselves. So it's going to be a very fantastic way to see how these drivers approach it, and not only the way the car and track behaves, but also how they behave with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. This track is very unique out of most tracks because it is basically has 2 long braking sections broken up by 2 corners and then a drag strip for the front and back straight. I mean, there's not very many other tracks like this out there. And you see here Fernando Montes going around the racetrack. You can see he's going to go down the front stretch here hard on the gas pedal and then dives it off into the corner here, turns number 1 and 2, and then down the back stretch and off into 3 and 4 under hard braking. So it's definitely going to be pretty interesting to see how these drivers fare here tonight, because it is just such a difficult track.
Yes, I agree, and it's going to be a relatively small field, but small field and a small racetrack doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a quick race. We could end up having a decent amount of cautions, and that could just move around the length of the race. No matter how small the field is, a small track like this, you're always going to be running into somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at the times here in qualifying, because qualifying's not all too long here. It's only got about 2 minutes left. Christopher Burge currently sitting atop the leaderboard. Big pickup for him. He picked up about a 1/10 and a half from his practice time, now running a 19.993 second lap time. So good for Christopher Burge. Kevin Paskowicz currently sits in second, and Kevin paced the practice times with a 19.904, but unfortunately wasn't able to back up his practice lap time here. But currently on the outside front row as we speak, Brian Lowhead, Nate Catilla, and Tom Johnson have not set a time. And Carlos, I see that number 4 machine out there on the racetrack. He hasn't been scored with a lap time, and I think iRacing might have taken his lap from him for a little bit of wall contact, perhaps?
Yeah, we saw when we first put a shot on him, he smacked the outside wall. That cleared any time that we would have had on this lap, and I would assume that he probably did the same thing on the second lap, if that already wasn't his second lap. This is going back to another challenge this track poses is the tight corners. These are both pretty much hairpin corners, for these type of vehicles, and the wall will get you right at the end. And well, you can see right there, no safer barriers, so at least not in the straightaways. So whatever challenge these drivers have, it's going to be very tough on the cars themselves if they end up on the outside wall.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, these K&N cars don't have all that much horsepower. They only get up to about 110 miles an hour down the drag strip front and back straight, and they get down into even as low as 60 miles an hour through the center of the corner. So it's definitely a tough track, high speeds. Well, relatively high speeds on the straightaways, and then they get well down and when they're in the middle of the corner. So definitely an interesting track. It's kind of got a unique driving style because of how much brake you have to use. Kind of races a little bit like a road course, which is one of the reasons I really like this racetrack. I prefer road courses, but nonetheless, it's definitely going to be interesting to see here tonight as the checkered flag has been thrown on qualifying. And the number 98 of Christopher Burge, he was able to hold on to that top spot as a couple of the cars down there now gridding. And there he is, that driver of that number 98 machine, Christopher Burge, currently starting on the pole, and to the outside, that number 7 of Kevin Paskowicz. We've seen Kevin be really fast here throughout the season. I expect to see him here again tonight, nice and quick. Row number 2, we have the number 25 of Kyle Zimmer. and the number 13 of Alan Capers to his outside. On row number 3, and the number 99 of Johnny Berardi. Good qualifying for him. He's going to roll off P5, and alongside him is Fernando Matos. On row number 4, the 32 of Billy Wise and Tom Johnson. And then rounding out the field, 2 non-qualifiers in the last row, Nate Catilla and Brian Lowhead, as we begin to roll off. And Carlos, you know, I do want to make a quick note here of the point standings before we get going. If I can pull those up real fast. Seems like, there we go. It's the K&N series. Of course, we run the split series here on Monday nights, but Alan Capers currently sitting atop the leaderboard over Billy Wise and Chris Roberge. He's only got a point lead, does Alan Capers, so we'll have to keep an eye on that tonight. There he is in that number 13 machine. Can't miss him out there, as we do get 2 pace laps here. So just going to quickly roll you through your top 10 in points. Alan Capers currently sits top with 123 points. Billy Wise second with 1 point back. Chris Roberge is only another point back in third. Kyle Zimmer is tied on points with Roberge. Kevin Paskowicz sits 5th in points. He's 3 points off the top. AJ Digby and Fernando Matos tied for 6th, 7 points off the top. Brian Lowhead, Johnny Berardi, and Nate Catilla round out your top 10 as pace car has dived onto pit road. So it'll be interesting to see how that points tables stack up after this one here tonight. Green flag in the air here at Martinsville Speedway, and everyone off and away. Chris Roberge doing a great job. Dives off into shore. Oh, over the contact there right in the front. The 7 and the number 98 get together. That's going to open the door for Kyle Zimmer. Oh, the 99's around hard in the wall on the backstretch. Still no caution. And Johnny Berardi's going to get going. But tough break for him. He actually hit the pit wall.
Is out.
And there is the caution.
I'm not seeing any slowed down vehicles, so I believe it could be safe to assume that this was an admin thrown caution.
Yeah, I believe it was an admin thrown caution because that number 99 impaled the wall. Basically, Martinsville, it only has 1 pit road here. However, one thing left from a bygone era is the pit road on the backstretch. And as you'll see here on the replay, the number 99 actually, once he gets a little bit of contact there, he's going to go into that wall there. Just barely missing the end of that wall, which probably would have got him stuck into the barriers. We saw that last week. One of the drivers, I think in the B-Car series, that happened too. But, ooh, there's that contact between the race leaders.
I think
and
the
Berardi going around.
pushed the 99.
There was definitely a little bit of contact.
Let's right on board 13 and see if we can see if the 7 just came down or the 13 shoved the 7. The 7 got loose into the 98.
I think they were definitely playing a little bit of bumper cars there, Carlos, because just the way that those cars look like on entry, their behavior. So we'll have to see if anything happens here.
Oh yeah, it's not
yeah,
much.
Definitely.
98. It's probably the one that got the least amount of damage. Well, probably 13 got the least amount of damage. 7 definitely might have just a lot more damage than the others, but it's Martinsville. It's not going to matter here.
Yeah, that's one good thing about Martinsville Speedway is damage doesn't matter too much. I mean, as long as you have all 8 cylinders, you're not going to be, even if you have a ton of visual damage, it's not going to hurt you all too much. And one nice thing about Martinsville Speedway is you always get quickie yellows. The space car lights are already off, and these drivers are already doubling up to get set to go back to green. But I know I've been in races here at Martinsville Speedway, had an absolute ton of damage, and was able to wrestle the car up to a pretty decent finish. So I'm expecting to see that out of a couple drivers here tonight. If they do get damage, they do have faster fares. Oh, we have an accident on the backstretch a little bit further back. We might not go green here.
No,
it looks like we have 1 car. Yeah, the green flag is in the air. Fernando Matos has a ton of damage on the number 17, but the green flag is in the air. Kyle Zimmer is your race leader, side by side with Chris Roberge. And looks like Zimmer's going to get out of turn number 1 nice and smoothly, and he's going to assume the race lead. Of course, he did win between that contact with the 7 and 98 on the green flag. and Zimmer's going to check out here just a little bit. Zimmer, of course, has led every lap so far. Their side-by-side battle for the second position. Paskowicz gets into turn 1 a little bit deep underneath the number 98, but there's contact between the 98 hard in the wall. That's a lot of right front damage for that number 98 machine. There's a lot of visual damage on that machine, but you have to be concerned about contact a little bit further back, and reverse has gone around in front of some other cars. I expect that to be a yellow. There's no caution here. There's cars stopped on the racetrack, and one of those is Johnny Berardi. He's still in the inside wall. He's trying to find reverse in that number 99 machine. Caution flag is finally in the air. Pretty action-packed so far, Carlos.
Yeah, that's definitely a very, very action-packed first 8 laps. I'm not sure why the caution wasn't thrown. I wonder if maybe the admins had changed the setting by accident and cautions are disabled, because you can still, as of a couple updates ago, you can still throw cautions even if cautions are disabled. So I wonder if maybe that's going on, because the 98 is clearly in the middle of the road.
Yeah, you know, Martinsville is one of those older tracks, and sometimes it's tricky to get a caution flag to come out. But I definitely think that surely would have been a yellow flag, as we see the replay here. That little bit of contact there.
Clearly, his car got thrown all the way up there when he hit those bumps.
And those that curbing on the inside line, that yellow curb that goes all the way through turns 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, that is something you don't want to hit. Yeah, they're absolutely vicious. They will unsettle your car. You know, if you hit them on entry, it typically tends to just make your front end skate and you'll push up into a car. If you hit them on exit of the corner when you're putting the power down, you more than likely are going to spin out, because they just break your car loose. You lose that traction from the rear tires when on exit, and typically leads to a pretty big accident. I know I myself have done that in the past, but they're definitely one of the hazards to watch out for here at Martinsville Speedway. Looks like the number 17, Fernando Matos. Oh, he's going to get stuck on pit exit here, so he will lose a lap. Tough break for him. It doesn't look like he was able to use a fast repair there on that number 17 Impala. So hopefully these drivers do have fast repairs. The fast repairs are typically enabled, but I didn't see him use one as of yet.
He may have gone
going to keep an eye on.
Yeah, it looks like
that is possible.
You know, this league is all most of all, it's about having fun. So, you know, if you're the only driver one lap down, which right now currently Johnny Berardi is currently the only driver one lap down, they may just give it to you. This is more of just a league where everybody can get together, have fun. There are rules, of course, but something as harmless as that. It's happened before. They'll just give the drivers a wave around so everybody can get back in the lead now.
And I really like that, because I know these drivers really do enjoy racing here at the SimPossible Racing League. It's a great league. It's for drivers who are disabled. Every driver in this field tonight has a disability, and it really is a great community of drivers. They're all very understanding of one another, and they put on a great show, have a lot of fun in doing so. So if you are a disabled driver yourself, or you know of one, make sure to check out this league, because it's a great place to be a part of. I enjoy commentating each and every week here on 3 Wide TV, as pace car lights are already off. Sometimes it can catch us off guard just a little bit at Martinsville Speedway, as we're getting set to go back to green flag racing. The number 25 of Kyle Zimmer will lead us down. Points leader Alan Capers in the number 13 to his outside. Green flag back in the air as those cars go across the start-finish line and off into turn number 1. Capers really diving it in there, but he's not going to find any grip up top just yet. Kyle Zimmer is going to scoot away once again and assert himself as the race lead. But look at that number 13, hard on the brakes. He's going to try and fend off the number 7 of Kevin Paskowicz here. And Carlos, if you can stick to the outside and try and pitch that car down, sometimes you can get a little bit lucky and make a pass on the high side, although it's a little bit hard to do as you see the 13 get a little bit loose off the corner.
It's a fine science, and I believe 98 has gone and wrecked. Oh, that's heavy damage for the 98. Knocks out the cone just at the very end. I think he may have gotten turned. Let's go. Caution is out. So that incident has resulted in a caution. Let's go back and take a look and see if we can see just what happened. I saw it on my peripheral vision. 98 was being turned, or not being turned, but was turned there at some point. It looks like he made contact with, I believe, the 32. I'm not quite sure. Let's go back and take a look. Let's see what you see, Peter. Done it again.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I think you're right. There's a little bit of a contact between those two drivers, and just the 32 and the 98. But we'll see here as we went back a little bit further. Those two drivers side by side. Of course, the 32 there, Billy Wise. He's to the outside of Chris Roberge, and they're going to go through turns number 1 and 2 here. And it's really when they come off the corner. It looked like the number 98 had cleared him, and he kind of came up the track just a little bit. There was the contact, and that put the number 98 hard in the inside wall. So tough break for Chris Roberge. He's going to be set back just a little bit with some right side damage on that machine. But I'm sure we'll see Chris back in the game as this race continues on.
So what I can see is the top 3 stayed out. 25, 7, and 32 all stayed out. Everybody on back has come down pit road.
Yeah, interesting call by Alan Capers. We've seen him up near the front there. He actually stayed out and is now coming back to pit road. So that's somewhat interesting, but a lot of these drivers now rolling off onto the racetrack from pit road. Brian Lowhead in the number 66, Tom Johnson 56, Nate Catilla, Fernando Matos, Chris Roberge will roll off pit road altogether. And it does look like Chris Roberge and Fernando Matos were able to use fast repairs, so the number 17 and the number 98 are back to full strength. A good run so far by Brian Lowhead. He's one of those drivers who likes to start in the back. We heard him last week in the B Car Series race that we broadcasted here. He said it's a lot of fun to start in the back, and I completely agree with him. He likes to work his way forward, and here he is currently running in the 4th position on the racetrack, so pretty cool to see. Of course, we do have a couple of paint schemes here for Memorial Day, which is great to see. Brian Lowhead, Nate Kidla, and Billy Wise all running pretty similarly, or at least similarly sponsored machines, but they have different colors. Lowhead, of course, in the white. You see him right there. Nate Kidla in the red back there, and Billy Wise is in a black car, currently sitting in the 3rd position right in front of Lowhead. So cool to see. Definitely honoring those who have fallen. The ultimate sacrifice here on Memorial Day. Definitely something to be mindful of, whether you are in the States or across the globe. You know, things are not free, even though things that we take for granted we think are free, they're not free, and it's always something to be mindful of as all these drivers are going down the back stretch. Pace car lights are off. We're getting set to go back to green flag racing. Lap number 21 of 150. We'll have 129 laps to go as we cross the start-finish line this time. But pace car is off on pit road, and the race is back in the hands of the number 25 of Kyle Zimmer. Green flag is in the air. Great restart there by Kevin Paskowicz in the number 7. He's going to beat the number 25 to the line ever so slightly, but that number 7 is going to push like a dump truck. He's way up high and out of the groove. That's going to, the 7's a little bit swirly coming out of turn number 2. He bangs it off the wall. That's going to at least straighten up that number 7 machine for now. It is interesting to note that your race leaders, your top 3 at this point, have not pitted for tires yet. Everyone on back has, but Kyle Zimmer just ran a 20.568, fastest car out there, and he's just going to scoot away for the time being. Billy Wise now up into the 2nd position with that number 7 banging off the wall last time, but that battle for 2nd is up for grabs once again. Oh, contact the 7 hard in the inside wall. Caution is out here at Martinsville, and that time Carlos, the caution actually came out thanks to iRacing.
Yeah.
Last few iRacing's been a little bit dozy, but this time the caution finally came out in the sim. That's a tough break for Kevin Paskowicz. Talk us through it, Carlos.
Yeah, it's pretty clear right there. It looks like the 32 just gave it just a little bit too much beans exiting the corner, and resulted in getting loose and going straight out into the 7. 7, of course, had nowhere to go. You probably didn't even see it. Let's take a look from the onboard cam and see if we can even see a sign of 32 getting loose. We didn't even see a 32 right there. He shows up, and by then it's too late to make any type of moves. 7 cars all the way in the inside wall has more damage, and the caution comes out.
Yeah, so tough break for Kevin Paskowicz. I'm sure we'll see him work his way throughout the field. later on in this race, but he's going to come down. Be interesting to see if he decides to use a fast repair or not. Depends on the severity of the damage on that machine. But currently, Kyle Zimmer and Billy Wise both stayed out. They're still your race leaders. I think pit road was open this last time, and there weren't very many takers.
It looks like 4 or 5.
Yeah, Paskowicz, Tom Johnson, Nate Catilla, Brian Lowhead decided to come down pit road at last time. But your race leaders are still staying out. And Carlos, you know, old tires here at Martinsville, track position is key on a short track like this because it's fairly difficult to pass. But there is a certain point at which your tires just start to give way. I know a lot of these laps in the early going here have been run under caution, but I just wonder how long it will be until we see the number 25 and the number 32 the tires just start to give up just a little bit.
That all honestly kind of depends on the weather and how hot it is. I honestly don't think it's going to make much of a difference until after you get past 40, maybe 35 laps of wear. It also depends on how good you are. If you're able to hold off these drivers with old tires, then you're gonna have a good shot at winning the race if you just stay out. But the main point is, it just mostly depends on how good you are and how fast the car is. If you have a very fast car, then you can afford to stay out with old tires, like we're seeing currently in 25 of Zimmer. As you noted earlier, ran the fastest lap of the race or of the restart with that old set of tires compared to the new tire drivers.
Yeah, and going back to the track temperature thing, it is pretty hot on the track currently. 111 degrees Fahrenheit track temperature. That's probably hot enough to fry an egg. So the track temperature will definitely play a part in this race, and that's probably why it's starting to get a little bit slippery out there, which might have led to that accident. Billy Wise, of course, is one of those drivers on older tires, and if the track is hot and you have older tires, you're more likely to get wheel spin up off the corner, and that's what you saw when that number 32 broke loose. But pace car lights are off once again. We'll have 121 laps to go this time once the green flag flies back in the air. Race back under control of the number 25 nationwide machine of Mr. Kyle Zimmer. As he goes off through turns number 3 and 4, green flag back in the air. Gotta watch for wheel spin on these drivers on the older tires. No wheel spins currently. Look at Fernando Matos, a little bit of an argy-bargy up at the front. Matos gonna get himself past the number 32 of Billy Wise. 32 all up out of shape, but he's gonna keep going. And now Fernando Matos in the 17, he's gonna try and close in on the number 25. There's about 18 or so laps different between Kyle Zimmer's older tires and Fernando Matos' newer tires, but here comes Alan Capers, the number 13. He's going to dive to the inside of that number 17, and Alan Capers is your points leader coming into tonight's race, so I'm sure he is looking to try and pad that points total here as he moves past the number 17 of Matos on the front straightaway. Great pass there by Alan Capers as the whole field now pretty much double file from second place on back. As you can see, the great battle here brewing between Billy Wise and Fernando Matos. Billy lost that position to the number 17 on the start, but now Billy has regained that spot. But we have a battle brewing for the race lead. The number 13 of Alan Capers was about a half second faster than Kyle Zimmer that last time by. Those fresh tires. Oh, we have a caution. Oh, there's a couple cars around on the backstretch. Chris Roberge and Tom Johnson, it appears.
I think the
and both of those. That number 98 looks worse for wear. That machine doesn't look like it's going straight at all. Looks like it's crabbing just a little bit. Oh, jeez. Nate Catilla getting a piece of it. That number 38 spun like a top. And then hit the inside wall.
Take a look at it from the onboard gyro camera. Can't see the steering wheel work, but it looks like the 98 just got loose in the middle of the racetrack. Got hit by, I believe, the 4 car and resulted in a spin there, as we saw.
Yeah, that was a hard hit by that number 98 machine. And yeah, a little bit of a clip from the 56. And that just about sent it flipping, as you'll see here. And that number 98, when he got hit by Nate Catilla, that's where that thing started to spin like a top. So definitely a tough break for him. But your race leader, Kyle Zimmer, is on pit road as we talk. Zimmer finally electing to come down pit road. He will be the first car off of pit road in that number 25 machine. Brian Lowhead will be the second car off pit road. Nate Catilla, Tom Johnson, Chris Roberge currently sits in his pit box, and Chris Roberge has to get going pretty quickly or else he'll fall a lap down. A little bit concerned about Chris Roberge here because I don't see a fast repair being used, which means he might be stuck on pit lane. Carlos, you know, you have to check that box. If he has any required repairs, and was being shown a black flag with his amount of damage, I kind of expect that to have happened. If you don't check the box that elects to use a fast repair, it will hold you in your pit box. You can't just all of a sudden change to use a fast repair, and I think that's why Chris Roberge is still sitting on pit road. That is going to be a tough break for that number 98 machine.
It's also possible that he's run out of fast repairs. It seems like he is. So you see at 13 almost trying to get a cone and almost end his truck, almost end his car's life. It's possible that the 98 is running out of fast repairs. He's been involved in the majority of the incidents here tonight so far, and it would be a real shame. But I believe in this track they are awarded 4 fast repairs.
Yes, I do believe it is 4 fast repairs tonight. I think it's super speedways and dirt tracks where they have 5, if my memory serves me correctly.
Yep. Well, we have the 1-2 green right now, and what we are seeing is something you haven't seen before so far. It's a split field right now. The first couple drivers are on old tires, and the other couple drivers have gone down pit road recently. So we've got an even split around here.
Yeah, one of those drivers who has not pitted at all yet is Billy Weiss. In fact, he's the only driver still out there on the racetrack who is on the tires he started the race with, as green flag is about to be thrown. There it is, back in the air. Number 13 of Alan Capers hard on the loud pedal. He's going to get a great restart, and he's going to lead the whole field going off into turn number 1. Here comes Billy Weiss underneath Fernando Matos with 3 wide. And look at the number 25, Kyle Zimmer, digging on the inside line. Oh, Nate Catilla's got him around on the backstretch.
Caution.
There's the caution.
It looked like the
so we'll have to see. Yeah, I think he just got loose. And looking at the number of laps he had on his tires, he didn't have all too many laps on those things. So looks like the wheel spin. You can even get wheel spin pretty early in your run, which is pretty impressive. These K&N cars have a little bit more horsepower, I'm guessing, than I thought. So tough break for Nate. Nosed it into the wall, but he will definitely be back, I am sure. As a couple more takers on pit road, Brian Lowhead and Tom Johnson are coming down. You're in the back of the pack, Carlos. You know, pretty much just come down pit road every time, I would think. Because you're not going to lose anything.
I agree. You know, unlike real life, these drivers do not have a cap on how many tires they can use in the weekend. As you see, the Ford just overshoot it a little. The only limit these guys have is how many fast repairs, and some of these drivers are already going through a bunch. I don't know who's running pretty low. Although I will say I am going to commend the 32. He's been involved in a couple of incidents, but he stayed out. He's still on his original tires and fuel. But he hasn't wasted a single fast repair, where a lot of drivers already have, and I think it's safe to say 98 did use all his fast repairs. So that's one position that the 32 is already not going to get if the 98 does not come back in the racetrack.
Yeah, definitely a tough break for Chris Roberge. In fact, I just got a notification from Chris Roberge, and it sounds like he has about 4.5 minutes of damage still left on his car. He's currently down 6 laps already, so that is an absolute tough break for that number 98. He will get back onto the racetrack, which will be great to see, but being down 7 laps now as these cars flash on by his pit box, definitely a a mountain to climb for that number 98 machine. It's just going to be really tough to see him going up and finishing in the top 10. Now, if we keep getting cautions like this, he might get lucky, especially if he gets some waiver rounds in there as well as some lucky dogs. Only time will tell. We'll have to keep an eye on Christopher Berge's comeback once he gets back onto the racetrack, because hopefully he is able to get at least close to being on the lead lap as all these cars headed around. Looks like the pace car lights are going off. We're get set to go back to green flag racing in just about a lap's time. But, pretty interesting strategy for that number 32 machine, sitting in the second position, and also on the tires he started the race with, as we are nearing 1/3 distance.
I'm all for it. These drivers are not running more than 5 laps before caution comes out, so realistically, these tires are still pretty good.
Absolutely, and the green flag back in the air. Alan Capers got a good restart in that number 13 machine. Watch the number 25 of Kyle Zimmer. He's going to fill the hole right behind that number 13 machine. Kyle Zimmer going to move up into second position. Billy Wise on the outside now, under fire from the 7 of Kevin Paskowicz as they go down the backstretch. Ooh, looks like Alan Capers right ahead. I think he might have hit that yellow curbing just a little bit. Open the door for the number 25, Kyle Zimmer. Zimmer back to the race lead. And contact right behind. 7 saved it.
Oh, 32.
Wow, he's still sideways. 32 sideways. 4 wide on the backstretch. 66 of Lowhead in the wall. We stay green. I don't think I've ever seen 4 wide at Martinsville before, Carlos, without
I don't think I've ever seen a driver
wrecking.
lose it almost 3 times and not actually spin out. As we're seeing the 17 and the 7 and the 17 and the 7 battling side by side here for 3rd place. Currently, right now, the 7 Paskowicz does have fresher tires, but it's less than a 10 lap differential, so it's not going to be much of an issue. That being said, 25 is beginning to see a quick battle from the 13. 13 is actually staying with the back of the 25. Coincidentally, the 13 of Alan Capers has about 30 laps in his tires, and Kyle Zimmer has about 15. So the fact that Alan Capers is staying true with the 25 is really, really good, as the caution is out.
Yeah, caution came out in turn number 1 and 2. Billy Wise, the number 32, went around. We'll see what happened here on the replay. I think, he just caught that curbing just a little bit, broke the car loose. And that spun him right around. I'm sure the number 32 will now come down pit road and use a fast repair.
Almost everybody's going down pit road.
Yeah, look at this. Takers pretty much throughout the entire field. Matos, Catilla, the number 99 of Berardi, and the 32 of Billy Wise currently stays out. So, commentator said he'd come down and pit, but he hasn't done so yet. So that's kind of interesting to see as Kevin Paskowicz gets into his pit box. Oh, he overshot his pit box. The number 7 did just a little bit. So we'll have to see if he loses some track position because of that. But Kyle Zimmer's crew, the number 25, will be the first one off pit road. Great pit stop time for them in that number 25. Taking a look, it looked like a 14.4 second stop for Kyle Zimmer. So that's pretty impressive for that crew. In fact, I'm looking at the other pit stop times. Looks like Zimmer's was the fastest out of anyone. So that number 25 crew is on it today. Started from the 3rd position, has led the most laps so far. Here, still in the early going, and I say early going, we just crossed the 1/3 race distance.
Yeah,
as Nate Catilla.
32 final pit road.
Yeah, I think he has had enough of those Goodyear Eagles out there. Didn't look like they had the grip level he was hoping for. Christopher Berge, ladies and gentlemen, has returned to the racetrack. Currently scored 16 laps down.
And back to pit road.
So he is back on pit road. So it'll be interesting to see if Chris can make his way back from 16 laps down. But you know what, Carlos? I'll be interested to see if he's on pit road to use a fast repair here, and whether he wasn't out of fast repairs, as he will dive into his pit box, and we'll find out here in just a second. Of course, Chris was your pole sitter, and boom, there was the fast repair. So, yep, just forgot to click it. That is a tough mistake to make. We've seen it done a couple times here in the SimPossible Racing League by a couple different drivers, and you know, it must be so frustrating. You get into your box and they start holding you, and you're like, oh, I just want to use a faster pair, but you can't. But Chris Roberge now has a mountain to climb, currently being scored in the 10th position, 16 laps behind. We'll have to see if he can make his way back. We'll have to follow that story, but pace car is on pit road, and that number 98 of Roberge, he's about half a lap behind. He's going to have to work his way up to the front pretty quickly, but Nate Cattilla's going to lead us back to green flag racing. He's going to head off into turn number 1. Al Zimmer there on the outside. He's under fire from the 13 of Alan Capers. Capers also on fresh tires. Capers getting a little bit loose off the corner. Does a good job of saving it, but here comes Kyle Zimmer. Zimmer's going to send it on the outside here. It's tough to pass up there, but he's going to get the drive coming out of turn number 4. Motors on pass number 4. We're 3 wide for second. Kevin Paskowicz is going to use the outside line. He's going to get around Nate. And now Paskowicz under fire from the 13. Oh, the 7 sideways, 7 in the wall. The 4 is involved. Oh, the 32 getting a piece of it. The 4 getting a piece of it. The 56 involved as well. And we're back under caution here at Martinsville. Oh, that number 4 is smoking. Yeah, we'll see here in the replay. Looks like 7 just cloosed just a little bit and got it to the side of the number 13, and it was on from there. A couple cars getting collected further back in the pack. One of those is the number 4 of Nate Catilla, and you can see that the machine smoking. So tough break for him. Go back to see if we can get any onboards. There we go with the Nate Catilla. And you can see there was basically nowhere for him to go once that number 7 broke loose. He tried to avoid it right at the last second, but to no avail. So tough break for him. I would like to see if we can ride on board with Brian Lowhead at number 66. He just barely got a piece of it. Fernando Matos in the 17 would also be a good view to look at here on our replay, if we can cue that one up as well. But here was Lowhead. You see the 3 wide situation right in front of them. I'll tell you what, that's not what you want to see at your front bumper here at Martinsville. 3 wide usually doesn't end all too well. And all of a sudden those 2 cars parted right in front of him. He unfortunately got a little bit of a piece of it there. 4th contact from the number 4. Of course, those 2 machines running similar paint schemes this week. Riding on board with Fernando Matos. Now, Fernando, he didn't get much damage here. He got a piece of it, but you can see that the whole field just kind of parked right in front of him. And maybe he got into the back of the Lowhead just a little bit, but that's pretty minor damage on that number 17. In fact, I can't even, there is a little bit of visible damage on the front end of that number 17. I take that back, but Matos kind of getting a little bit lucky there. He is going to stay on the racetrack. We do have a couple drivers who elected to come down pit road. Paskowicz, Catilla, Tom Johnson, Brian Lowhead being those drivers. They currently are all in their pit box. And Chris Roberge, ladies and gentlemen, will be your lucky dog. I have a feeling we're going to say that a few more times in this race. So that will put Roberge 16 laps down. He currently scored 17 laps down. I'm not quite sure if he lost a lap for some reason, an additional lap. Oh, Johnny Berardi in the number 99 actually might be the first car 1 lap down and getting the lucky dog, because Berardi's
3 laps down.
He's currently being scored 2 laps down, yeah.
Oh, no, 3 laps down. It's still the same thing at this point. We've completed 60 laps so far. Let's go ahead and take a look at the race details. We're about to complete 60 laps. We've had 8 cautions for 37 laps. Kyle Zimmer definitely has one of the faster cars out here tonight. So it's gonna be important to see if he can actually capitalize and do well in this finish as the pace car is off.
Yeah, just like that, we're getting set to go back to green flag racing here at Martinsville Speedway. The green flag is back in the air. Watch that number 13 of Alan Capers, see if he can mount a charge for the race lead on that number 25 machine as they dive off into turn number 1. That bright purple number 13, really hard to miss here. He gets loose coming out of the corner. Checks up just a little bit, and he's going to let the 25 scoot away as we have another caution on the racetrack. It's in the back of the pack. There's the number 32, Billy Wise, and Tom Johnson in number 56. doesn't look like all too much damage, but that number 32 definitely went around here on the replay. We'll see that, ooh, just a little bit there, and got loose, and yep, getting that wheel spin coming out of the corner. We've seen that a couple times tonight. It's definitely difficult here, you know, like I mentioned it's you have two sharp corners and then two essentially drag strips down the front and back stretch, and you know, just like those dragsters, when they lay down the power, if they get a little bit of wheel spin or wheel shake, that car all of a sudden goes towards the wall, and that's exactly what happened there. So kind of analogous to drag racing here at Martinsville Speedway when you jump off these corners, because as soon as you put that power down, these cars really do want to launch up off that corner. As Alan Capers, he's trying to grab the cone. That cone there out of turn number 2 is a little bit low down. So Capers, you know, he is the cone hunter of the league. He likes to kill cones as much as possible. So I won't be all surprised to see Alan Capers knocking one of those cones at some point tonight, hopefully of his own doing and not in an accident or anything like that. But we'll have to see if Mr. Capers can get it on this time, round 2, so to speak. Going now through turns number 1 and 2 under pacing. Not very many drivers elected to come down pit road this time, as he tried. Man, it's pretty difficult to get that one there. It's like a chicane on a road course, a really tight chicane, maybe like Monaco for all those drivers or those people who watched the Monaco Grand Prix this past weekend. A pretty entertaining race for the Monaco Grand Prix standards, as Lowhead is elected to come down pit road in the number 66 machine. He was the last car on the lead lap, so really nothing to lose for him to do so. There he is, driving through all the empty pit boxes. No cones down there, however, for him to kill. As Capers tried again. He's been unsuccessful so far in that number 13 machine to get in that cone. He will get it at some point. I'm sure he will. He'll figure it out how to kill that cone. There's also a cone right at the end of the backstretch on the entry to pit road, but that one you kind of have to ride up over the curbs, and that could potentially damage the car. So he's kind of rightfully not hitting that one. Of course, that one also might get you some kind of penalty for pit road entry issues. But pace car lights are off. We're going to get set to go back to green flag racing. Brian Lowhead is off pit road. So he's got 4 fresh tires on that machine. Probably got a little bit of damage fixed as well. I think Lowhead's saving some of his fast repairs, Carlos. And that's an interesting strategy. We've seen that work out for a couple drivers here in the SimPossible Racing League. We kind of talk about it each and every week. You know, the question of how many fast repairs you have left, as the green flag is back in the air. Diving off into turn number 1, Kyle Zimmer underneath Alan Capers. He's gonna... A little bit of bumping near the back of the pack. Still bumping. The 32's up and over. And, Billy Wise has gone for a barrel roll. Do a barrel roll down the back stretch, and caution is back in the air. Johnny Berardi was going by that number 32, and when Berardi did so, that triggered the yellow flag there. Man, that 32 went on a wild ride, landed on all 4s, but knocked the inside wall as well. Looks like it was a little bit of contact there with maybe the 56, I do believe. I'll have to go back and confirm if it was the 56 or not, but you saw there was a lot of bumping and banging there in the mid-pack, and it was just enough that resulted in an accident coming out of turn number 2. That brought the caution flag back out here tonight. And keep an eye on Johnny Berardi, ladies and gentlemen. Berardi is not quite sure if he's having an issue or something, but he's currently fallen to 6 laps down. Man, there's a 32 going up and over. He got so much airtime that the car pretty much could have gone underneath him. So luckily, no one else was involved beyond that number 56 of Tom Johnson and the number 32, but Billy Wise, you know, he stayed out early on in this one and was on really old tires, but he was up near the front. now he's found himself back in the pack, and he's been involved in a few little scuffles here and there. So Billy Wise, I know he wants to get that track position back. I'm kind of wondering to see if Billy Wise is just going to take it easy here on these next few runs to see if he can maybe save his tires a little bit, maybe stay out at a later point, and maybe leapfrog some of these drivers just by using a little bit of pit strategy. But at least for now, Billy Wise currently sits in the 6th position. Chris Roberge, he's back to 16 laps down. So he has gained 1 lap of the 16. And looks like Tom Johnson, however, he stayed on pit road to fix that number 56 machine a little bit longer than he would have liked to, as that 56 has now fallen 1 lap down. Looks like he is electing to save a fast repair, or he is out of fast repairs, not sure which. I would think the 56 still has a few left. But at this present moment in the race, just trying to save those is kissing the wall on pit road. Oh, we have had a car explode an engine. Billy Wise in the number 32's engine has just grenaded. He's going to get help from Brian Lowhead here to push him back to pit road as we are nearing the halfway mark. I think we will go back to green just before halfway. But look at this teamwork here between the number 66 and, ooh, well, just as I say that, I think Billy Wise has left the stage. He has all of a sudden, he's still in the server, but looks like he's left the racing surface. So tough break for Billy Wise. Maybe he ran out of fast repairs in on all those scuffles he was involved in. It seemed like all of a sudden it was back. A tough break, but oh, he is back. So maybe a little bit of connection issues there. Or he used a tow. Wow, that was a pretty quick tow.
Yeah, that was a very quick tow.
Pace car is off, and green flag is back in the air. Kyle Zimmer will lead them down once again. The number 13 of Alan Capers. Here comes Kevin Paskowicz to the inside of Capers. There's a side-by-side battle for the 2nd position. The number 7 Paskowicz, he's been fast here today. Started on the outside pole, was the fastest in practice, and now Paskowicz has moved himself back into the 2nd position. Fernando Matos currently sits in 4th in the number 17 machine. You see him there right at the left side of your screen going through turns number 1 and 2. Paskowicz, big wiggle coming out of the corner, was able to save it. And Paskowicz does have slightly fresher tires than Kyle Zimmer. There's about 9 laps difference on those 2 tires. There's probably only about 3 or 4 green flag laps different between those 2 tires. But Paskowicz is closing in on Zimmer. Zimmer got squarely coming out of turn number 2, as did Paskowicz. All of a sudden, intensity starting to pick up as we have now eclipsed the halfway mark here at Martinsville Speedway. Keep an eye on these 2 up at the front. They're definitely going for it as these laps continue to wind down. Both drivers breaking loose coming off the corner. Little small wiggle from the 25 this time once more. And you have to really watch out, because if you overheat those rear tires, it's kind of a snowball effect. If you overheat your rear tires, it's just going to make your car continuously looser, which means you'll be able to put the power down less and less. So that's something to watch out for here, and see if these drivers can cool down those rear tires. It takes some patience to do so, because of course, you know, I would say race car drivers tend to be a little bit impatient, if I would say so myself, as Johnny Berardi, he's fallen to 9 laps down, but currently back out there on the racing surface. So Chris Roberge trying to stick things out, 16 laps down. If he can get another 7 laps on Berardi, he'll have someone to race against. But the battle is for the lead here between these top 3, and Capers is just being nice and smooth in that number 13 machine. I mean, I know we've seen a couple wiggles out of Capers, but here right now he looks like he's just being smooth, taking care of those tires and letting the leaders kind of fight it out. As Kyle Zimmer looks like he missed his braking zone just a little bit, slid up the racetrack in 1 and 2. That isn't going to hurt him all too much here. But my oh my, just kind of the whole field now getting single file. Ooh, maybe a little bit of contact in the back between the number 4 and the 66 that last time by. And Catilla's going to let Lowhead on by. those two similarly paint-schemed cars still out there on the racetrack. Billy Wise, like we said, he's back on the racetrack. He used a fast repair. Good to see that. It was a really short tow for that number 32 machine.
I was very fortunate for the 32. Normally, I mean, granted, he is very close to it, but still, it's at least 30 seconds at the very, very best. He must have just timed it perfectly, got it just right.
Yeah, that is quite fortuitous for that number 32, as he currently sits one lap down. In fact, as he goes around Tom Johnson, Billy Wise is now the first car one lap down. So that is your lucky dog battle between the number 32 and the 56. The 32 currently has it for now as he goes around the whoa, Cotilla sideways saves it, and now the 66 is in the wall of Lowhead right in front of these drivers. So a little bit of action here in the mid-pack. And Billy Wise checked up to not hit the rear end of the number 66. Wisely did so, because if there was contact, he wouldn't have got the lucky dog anyway. Oh, the 99! Yeah, Berardi in the inside walls. No caution yet. He's stopped on the racetrack. Well, he's slowly rolling backwards on the racetrack. There's the caution. Caution is out. Oh, the number 32's around! I couldn't quite tell what the caution is for, whether it's the 32 going around or the 99. You see the 99 just lost it all on his own, but just about the same time, a different accident. Yep. Yeah, the 66 tagged him in 3 and 4 and sent that number 32 around, so not quite sure which one brought out the yellow. I think it might have been the Billy Wise contact there. But that's a tough break for Billy Wise, because he was in the lucky dog position. Now finds himself 2 laps down, because it took him a little bit of time to get that number 32 rolling once more, and in doing so he lost another lap. So Tom Johnson does appear like he will be the lucky dog here, which will be quite lucky for him, hence the lucky dog. But your leaders are on pit road. There is the number 25, Kyle Zimmer. He's going to jump into his pit box. Oh yes, the back up just a little bit. That's going to cost him some time. We'll have to see if that's going to cost him the race lead. Paskowicz has, in his pit box, barely getting that right rear tire. Yeah, just getting it in the box. But that number 7 is down and away. They're going to be side by side to the line off pit road. And Kevin Paskowicz will be the first car off pit road.
Actually,
Paskowicz.
No. That was a 4-tire
yeah,
pit
Paskowicz.
stop.
Yeah, Paskowicz got 4 tires. It was the mistake that Kyle Zimmer made, having to back up in his pit box, that cost him the race lead. So we'll have a new race leader, Paskowicz leading. Well, excuse me, I should caveat that Nate Cotilla in the number 4 machine has stayed out. So Cotilla is your race leader as it stands, but Cotilla's coming down pit road as we speak. So he just made the hard left turn to head down pit road. But now your race lead is going to be given to Kevin Paskowicz. Chris Robertson, the number 98, will take a wave around back to 15 laps down. So that will be good for him. And in fact, he's almost caught up to the number 99 of Johnny Berardi, as Berardi currently sits on pit road. And so that will be a battle between those two drivers here in a lap or two. Billy Wise, the only other driver 1 lap down or more. He's currently 2 laps down. But Kevin Paskowicz, race leader, Kyle Zimmer second, Alan Capers third, then Fernando Matos, Brian Lowhead, Tom Johnson, and Nate Cotilla in the 4. And Cotilla, he's headed off pit road as we speak, back up onto the racing surface. And Carlos, there is that number 98 Rooster Teeth machine, and that car looks pretty familiar, Carlos. I think there's another driver out there that likes to run a Rooster Teeth car. Who might that be?
Not only is that car, not only is that the same sponsor that I run, it's the exact same paint scheme, just minor edits. So yeah, I run the Rooster Teeth Chevrolet number 24 Rooster Teeth car for Thrill Racing League, for Johnny Thomas Racing in the Thrill Racing League Arcade Cup Series. Fortunately, you're not in it this year, but you still run the trucks from a part-time basis.
Yeah, I've yet to make a start this year, but nonetheless, we're back to Green Flag Racing here. Kevin Paskowicz. Kevin Paskowicz is your race leader. Great restart there. He's now under file from Kyle Zimmer. Zimmer had a really good restart there. Was able to stay right on the back door. Here comes Alan Capers, hard on the brakes at number 13. Kind of a dive bomb there, but no contact between those drivers. Zimmer gave him enough room, but Zimmer was able to get power down and retains the second position as we have 59 laps to go here. Oh, caution. Fernando Matos in the 17. The 3-wide TV machine involved again. Not quite sure what happened here. We'll have to go back and see if we can catch a replay of this.
13 got loose and the 17 got loose right behind him. That's the case of monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah, and unfortunately for that, 17 notes it into that outside wall pretty hard. But yeah, that's definitely something that happens. Monkey see, monkey do is pretty common in racing tracks. And you know, Carlos, on a track like this, where once you're behind the wheel in the driver's seat, you really can't see too much. And a lot of the times, these drivers will kind of base what they're doing off the car in front of them, run the line in front of us, the exact same line, you know, use braking points off the car in front, and sometimes it can lead to accidents just like that one, as Billy Wise will be your lucky dog here. Ooh, Fernando Matos might have lost power in that number 17 machine. He came to a stop on pit road and looks like he had to have taken a repair, so it looks like the 17 did lose an engine.
He's currently being shown a lap down. Well, more than likely.
Yeah, he is currently. Yeah, he's currently being shown a yeah, like you said. So that's a tough break. Tom Johnson also on pit road in the number 56 machine. But we only have 56 laps to go or so here at Martinsville Speedway. And Kevin Paskowicz is your race leader. Kyle Zimmer sits in second, third, Alan Capers. Behind him is Nate Catilla in the number 444, currently with that number 4 machine. So great to see him there. But yeah, Kevin Paskowicz, your race leader here. 55 laps to go. And Carlos, Carlos, will you be able to give us the race statistics as of right now and kind of speak to them a little bit?
Yeah, sure. We can go ahead and take a look at it. Not much has changed overall so far. We're currently in lap 95 with 12 cautions and 55 laps of caution laps. Alan Capers, I believe he now has the fastest lap at 20.269. That being said, I still think that this race will more than likely belong to Kyle Zimmer should he get himself back up in the front.
Well, he is going to have to get around that number 7 machine, and we have seen speed from Kevin. You know, like we've mentioned a couple times, he was the fastest car in practice by almost a tenth of a second over Kyle Zimmer. Kyle Zimmer was second in practice. Christopher Burge was third in practice in the number 98. Christopher Burge was able to grab the pole at the start of this race, but you know, Paskowicz has at least shown that he has the 1-lap pace to outpace Kyle Zimmer, but that number the number 7 machine does have a little bit of damage as we get set to go back to green flag racing. Green flag once again in the air, and look at Kevin Paskowicz. Didn't get the greatest of restart in the number 25. Zimmer timed it perfectly, but wasn't quite. Oh, the 25 is around in the outside wall. Caution back in the air. So that's really the first slip-up we've seen from Kyle Zimmer here today in that number 25 machine. He got a lot of front-end damage. I'm sure he'll elect to come down and use a fast repair, but you know, you said it, Carlos, just too much beans coming out of the corner.
Yeah.
We've heard you say that a couple times tonight.
No, yeah, just a little bit too much beans there at the exit of the corner. Got himself loose and overcorrected it into the outside wall. It's a rare mistake that we see from Kyle Zimmer. But it's good that he's done it. I mean, we're past halfway, but with the amount of caution we're having, it's good that he's done it before it's too late. Oh, it was a 98 and the 56 made some additional contact, avoiding the 25. Other than that, this should not really affect the 25 all too much, as he is currently down in pit lane.
Yeah, and I also want to highlight Johnny Berardi in the number 99 machine. He also got a piece of that. Not quite sure if he's out of fast repairs or not, but he was involved kind of in a separate accident as Berardi is wall riding down the front straightaway, Carlos. He's going to get back on 4 wheels as we talk.
But Johnny, it may have costed him.
Yeah, Berardi's car is crabbing. He was already crabbing before that. That's he got into the outside wall with that machine kind of skewed out like it is, and that's a tough break. If he's out of fast repairs,
he's not crabbing, he's drifting.
Yeah, he's actually laying down rubber.
Yeah.
He's actually laying down rubber all the way around this racetrack, so we'll have to keep an eye on Berardi. Hopefully he's able to get back on the racetrack, currently being scored 13 laps down. But there was a separate incident. I think it was him, and he got a little bit of rear-end contact. You see he's going to ride the wall once again. He's going to get stuck. Yeah, he's gotten stuck. That's tough luck. I think he just clipped it, that car being skewed out like it was. Clipped it with the rear end of that car, kind of hopped it straight up onto the wall. And Johnny Berardi's race might end at a 90-degree angle to the rest of the world. We'll have to wait and see if he can use a faster, subsequently a fast repair, as he now has towed that number 99 machine back to pit road. But Alan Capers in that number 13 machine currently rides in second, with Zimmer, of course. Did Zimmer elect to pit? Yes, he did. Okay, so Zimmer's got a fresh car.
By the way, this does move up Christopher Birch up to 9th position now, as Johnny Berardi and Christopher Birch are on the same lap.
Yeah, we do have 5 runners currently 1 or more laps down. Billy Wise, Tom Johnson, Fernando Matos, Christopher Birch, and Johnny Berardi.
So half the field.
Yeah, that is half the field. Alan Capers and Kevin Paskowicz, the only 2 cars that elected to stay out here under this caution flag, excuse me. So Kyle Zimmer, Nate Catilla, Brian Lohed, all on fresh tires. As pace car has dived down once again onto pit road. It's set to go back to green flag racing. 47 laps once they pass the start finish line. Green flag back in the air for just under 30 miles, actually just under 25 miles here at Martinsville Speedway. That will click away pretty quickly here as they head out of turn number 2. Nice and clean throughout the field. Look at Capers right on the back bumper. That number 7 machine. We've seen Alan Capers. He's been really hard on those brakes. He has used kind of a dive bomb maneuver a couple times here tonight without making any contact, so clean dive bombs. But he's going to move up the inside of that number 7 machine. He opened up the door to Paskowicz, and Capers tried to fill it, but he hit that yellow curbing, which upset the number 13. As, oh man, look at that number 13 drift off into turn number 3.
It's loose on entry, but it's fast when he does that correctly.
And Carlos, I'm thinking that probably that number 13 machine might be running a little bit different brake bias than the number 7 and the other cars around him, which allows them to, oh boy, slideways coming out of turn number 2. And, oh, caution, we have a stack up on the backstretch. Looks like everyone's got away from it. Might be Billy Wise in the number 32. Saw him a little bit slow. We have to go back and see. I think it was the 32, yeah. The 32 and the 4 got together to see here on the replay.
Oh no, these are team cars.
Yeah, and that just bounced him off the wall. Kind of a quick 360 for Billy Wise, able to get back going. We've seen Billy Wise in the war so far here in this race, so I'm not quite sure how many fast repairs he has remaining, but definitely accruing a decent amount more damage here under this latest accident, as all of the POW MIA cars have some form of damage at this present moment in time. Of course, the number 4 and the 32 getting a little bit more here, as looks like Tom Johnson will receive the lucky dog, so good for him.
By the way, looking back into it, it looked like the 32 just clipped the bump right at the edge of the corner that shoved him up into his teammate. So no harm, no foul there. It's just race just a little bit too hard. 43 laps to go.
Yeah, so Billy Wise will stay 1 lap down as they run, but Tom Johnson now will be your 6th car on the lead lap. And it was a pretty good restart there for Kevin Paskowicz, trying to keep Kyle Zimmer behind. I know Zimmer now has a little bit fresher tires than him, but I don't think there's enough number of laps on those, or difference, to make too much of a time difference. And of course, we have seen Paskowicz be pretty quick with the 1 lap pace. Now that he has clean air in front of him, I would expect to see some of that pace come to fruition. And also, as the laps wind down, I'm sure it is go time in his head as well. Start to hit those marks lap after lap. And talking about hitting your marks lap after lap, that's kind of what you have to do here at Martinsville Speedway, because it is such of a paper clip. It's got 2 hairpins, it's got those 2 braking points. You have to find that rhythm as a driver to hit your marks lap after lap, be consistent, save your tires, not, spin your tires off the corner and wear them out. Like I've said earlier, that's kind of a snowballing effect. Once you have some heat in your rear tires, it just exacerbates any problems that you might have. And we've seen drivers like Kyle Zimmer and Kevin Paskowicz find their rhythm multiple times in this race, but with all these caution flags, it can definitely be difficult to get into your rhythm, find your groove, and hit your marks lap after lap. As we have pace car lights off once again. Number 7 will get us back to green here in just about half of the lap. But unfortunately for Christopher Burge, he's kind of been mired back there. There's been a lot of yellows, but he hasn't been able to get the lucky dog just yet. So he currently runs 15 laps down, but pace car off onto pit road, and green flag back in the air. Ooh, the number 25 got a great restart from the outside lane. He's going to beat Paskowicz to the stripe just a little bit as they head off into turn number 1, but the number 7 has the preferred inside groove through turns number 1 and 2. They're still side by side going down the back stretch. And look at Alan Capers. He's sizing up this battle right in front of him in that number 13 machine. He is your points leader. And Capers all the way down there on to the yellow curbing to see if he could get some drive up off the corner. Wasn't able to find it there as, the number 25 Zimmer ran way high through turn number 1 and 2. But he's going to get a great run down the backstretch. Was able to get that power down nice and smoothly. And you see Zimmer running this higher line, and what that allows him to do is straighten his exit up off the corner so he can get the power down a little bit better. And he's making that high line work pretty darn well. See him just kind of, it's like a rubber band effect almost. He loses ground on the 7 in the corner, but then gains it all back with that higher exit up off the corner. And that number 7 starting to get a little bit squirrely down there on the bottom. Him being pinned down there will make it just a little bit worse, but over under on the 25, he's going to try it. The door isn't open yet, though. And the number 25 causes contact from the number 13. The 25 saves it. What a save by Kyle Zimmer.
There's still
to keep that machine.
The 25 to regroup and get right behind the 7 again.
Yeah, and you see Zimmer now using that bottom line. Paskowicz this time used that higher groove through turns number 1, 2. Not sure if he just missed his mark there or whether he thought that Zimmer might have found some time up there. The high line usually doesn't come in at Martinsville Speedway, but it has on occasion. I've run a few races, very few where that high line starts to come in. But Zimmer, you see him get a little bit squirrely coming out of turn number 2 this time. And, he's really going to try and run down Paskowicz, but he has to be patient and not overwork those rear tires. There's still 33 laps to go here at the paperclip. He's still got plenty of time to run down Paskowicz. He has the fresher tires. That last time by, he was about a tenth faster than Paskowicz. In fact, Alan Capers was the fastest car on the racetrack by about a tenth and a half over Kyle Zimmer. Oh, but Capers is sideways coming out of turn number 4, and the 13's in the inside wall. Caution. Man, just as I was saying good thing about Alan Capers, the commentator's curse has to strike again. That might be the unlucky number 13 there for Capers, but you see this on the replay. He just kind of got loose coming out of the corner. Too much beans. Beans, the musical fruit. And unfortunately for Mr. Capers, that inside wall was calling his name there. But not too much damage on the front end of that number 13 machine. Don't think it's going to affect how that car handles. But Kevin Paskowicz is your race leader. Now, is Paskowicz going to come down and pit? Yes, he does. I was kind of interested to see who would come down pit road, who would stay out. I do expect to see maybe a couple of drivers stay out. Alan Capers, one of those who is staying out. Not quite sure if he just wants to lead a lap or not. But he, of course, bringing out that caution flag. And everyone else on the lead lap coming down pit road, bar Tom Johnson. Looks like Tom Johnson stayed out as well. So interesting calls here with 30 laps to go. Paskowicz hit his pit box nice and neatly, as did Kyle Zimmer. Those two cars jacked right now. We'll have to see who wins this race off pit road, because both Paskowicz and Zimmer got into their pit boxes nice and neatly, but Paskowicz had a great stop. A 14.4 second stop by my watch for the number 7, 15.3 for Kyle Zimmer. So that number 7 crew getting that machine off pit road first, and I can confirm that both Alan Capers and Tom Johnson came down pit road, so I guess Capers just wanted to lead a lap in that number 13 machine.
So now the main question we have here is, can Kyle Zimmer actually do something with Kevin Paskowicz, or is Kevin Paskowicz quick enough to be able to hold off Kyle Zimmer?
I think with that number 7 out front, I think that will allow him to, put his head down, hit his marks. So I think Paskowicz definitely has a pace. He's shown the pace. But I know Kyle Zimmer, he's lightning fast. He won last week in the B Car Series at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and he's just been really fast and on a tear here recently in the SimPossible Racing League. So I'm sure Zimmer wants to get back to victory lane, I should say, if and when he has the opportunity to do so. So don't count out Kyle Zimmer, but I do think raw speed-wise, I think Paskowicz will be able to hold off Zimmer. But only time will tell. And of course, we've already seen the commentator's curse strike once. It could always strike again.
And then you have a really bad history of it having to happen at the worst times and to the worst people in the worst people in the most horrible way. My train of thought went through the window on that one. I had something and it just did not form correctly in my head. I'm just gonna stay quiet.
Well, that goes back to that good old Michael Scott quote, where he's like, sometimes, I just start talking. Yeah, how the turntables. That's a hard one to say, because you want to say it correctly.
Yeah, you do.
But green flag is back in the air here, and Kevin Paskowicz will lead us down into turn number 1 once more. He is going to clear the number 25.
The 66!
Low head hard in the outside wall. And no caution just yet.
They're still wrecking it here.
Looks like...
he backed out. No caution. Caution is out.
Yeah, there's the caution. Man, oh man. 66 just nosed it into the wall. A little bit of contact there, I think, with Nate Catilla in the 4. We'll go back and watch this one on replay. Going back to the restart here, riding on board with the number 66 machine. It all looked okay on entry into turn number 1. There was the green flag hard on the power, and just made a little bit of a nudge, and then got that curbing, and then oof, ouch. That was a hard hit for the number 66 machine. Tough break too. Not quite sure if Lowhead has any more fast repairs left. He is currently sitting on pit road with that tow. But yeah, that was. Oh, you know what? Yeah, there you go, Carlos. We saw that nudge from the 66, but it was really the 13 and the 4 getting together, and that 4 got sideways and came down into the 66. I didn't see that before. So that was a kind of an accordion effect, and those do happen at this racetrack.
It's also something you can't necessarily blame everybody on. We're already at the tail end of the race. We got 24 laps right now, 23 at the moment. Probably restarting with about 21 to 20 laps to go. It's go time right now. If you're not going to go, hold on, right? And it's go time, and man, my mind is going a mile an hour.
There you go, good old Michael Scott quote. Gotta love The Office. Well,
it's go time. That's the main point.
It is go time. But luckily, we're going a little bit faster than 1 mile an hour on the racetrack, as Pam would say. That fast, huh? But we are pacing behind the rough RT12 pace car once more. But when we go back to green, there will be about 20 laps or so to go. So that's even more go time as these laps continue to wind down. This battle for the race lead between the number 7 and the 25 has been going on for pretty much the last half of the race. Both Paskowicz and Zimmer been nice and fast. Currently, though, the fastest lap time of the race is held by Alan Capers in the number 13 machine with a 20.269 second lap time. And looking at his qualifying time, that's only a little bit slower than his qualifying time. So Capers backing up his qualifying speed in the race, which is usually a good omen. But pace car lights are off once more. We will have 20 laps to go once we go back to green. Yep. Pace car dives down onto pit road once more. The race is back in the hands of Kevin Paskowicz. He will lead them through turns number 3 and 4, nice and slow, and now hard on the gas from 50 miles an hour. Ooh, a little bit of gamesmanship. Oh, the 25 wheel spin, and he bounces it off the wall. And now Zimmer being passed from the 13. Zimmer's going to drop back from 2nd all the way back to 4th, perhaps. No, he's going to hold off Capers. And he's now back up into 3rd. Now he's going around the number 4 of Bancatella, trying to use that high line to his advantage. And there was a little bit of gamesmanship. Oh, the 25 still in the wall, still bouncing it off. And now the 32 is going to get by. That number 25, I think he's got quite a bit of damage, Carlos, from those hits with the wall.
Oh, should he have a caution? His race will be safe because he should still have fast repairs. But I believe he may have a black flag as he is uncontrollable right now as the 99 makes contact. I did not catch who that was, probably the 66. This is really good news for the 7 of Kevin Paskowicz, as his main competition is right now struggling so badly. Alan Capers is about...
Oh, Carlos, we have a crazy battle for the 2nd and 3rd positions right now. Alan Capers was holding off the 32 Billy Wise, but now Billy Wise and Nate Catilla, they just banged off of each other on entry into 3 and 4. That's why there's a big gap between the number 13 and the number 32. Oh! Contact there. Christopher Burge getting a little bit of a hit check from the number 4 machine. They stay green, however. Here comes Kyle Zimmer once more. He's back up into the 5th position. He smells blood. He's going to get around Nate Catilla. He's now 4th position as they run, as they go across the start-finish line. So Zimmer's going to try and work his way back up into a 3rd place position or so, see if he can get another yellow and see if he can have another crack at this lead. But currently, Kevin Paskowicz has a huge lead, 2.94 seconds over Alan Capers in the number 13, with all that contact that happened behind him. It's exactly what he wanted to see. It's allowed him to skip up to now a 3-second lead. So we got to keep an eye on the number 25 of Kyle Zimmer, and Chris Roberge right in front of him is caught up to Billy Wise. What a recovery for Billy. Billy currently running in the 3rd position. The number 98 of Chris Roberge, he is many laps down, currently riding in the 9th position. So this isn't a battle for position as we ride on board with the number 25, Kyle Zimmer, not missing anything up at the front. And Zimmer, you can still tell that number 25 machine is just not happy after smacking the wall a couple of times. Maybe suspension damage, perhaps, at least maybe a little bit, causing that number 25 to be fairly difficult to drive.
When the 25 messed up that restart, his only option was to pass all those other vehicles on the outside line. We saw him do that in the first corner, and then he tried to do that when he tried to get around the 32 or 33, whatever it was. But just gave it just a little bit too much means. I in the corner, got himself loose, and got even more damage. To the point where he started dropping back, so the 32 is in the outside wall, and the 25 trying to avoid him, spins out, brings out the caution. This is not what the 25 wanted. At the same time, this also helps him to get himself probably a clean car, considering the fact that there's only 6 drivers a lap down. And by the time that we restart again, it'll probably be 7 drivers in the lead lap, but that 7th driver will be getting away, a free pass and be towards the end.
Yeah, that was tough. Just a tough break for Kyle. He saw that number 32 get loose in front of him, and he made some evasive actions, but unfortunately, just with the way that the weight shifts and that these anti-roll bars are, it just all of a sudden got that machine loose and wasn't quite able to save it. Tried to save it, didn't make any contact with the outside wall, but brought out the yellow flag as we have now ducked under 10 laps to go. I do expect to see Kyle Zimmer on pit road here. It'll be interesting to see who stays out and who pits here. Looks like your front 4 are all electing to stay out, or your front 3? Yeah, your front 3 are electing to stay out. That will be Paskowicz, Capers, Billy Wise. Zimmer, first car on pit road here. Expect to see 4 fresh tires on that machine. Nate Catilla in the 4 is electing to stay out. Tom Johnson in the 56 is on pit road. So Zimmer and Tom Johnson, your first 2 cars on pit road, 2 out of the 6 cars on the lead lap. And Tom Johnson had a fast repair, so he's going to use that. Zimmer as well. So those 2 machines will be back up to full strength. We have had a retirement. The 66 of Brian Lowhead has retired that machine after making hard contact with the outside wall about 10 laps ago or so. Tough break for him. I think there's enough time for both Roberge and Berardi to get by, so Lowhead might slip down to the 10th position, which will be a hit in points. But Kyle Zimmer and Tom Johnson are off pit road. Looks like Tom Johnson, looking at pit times, Tom Johnson did take 4 tires, but Tom actually leapfrogged Kyle Zimmer. So interesting to see that those 2 drivers kind of had different strategies on pit road. Both used the fast repair, but Kyle Zimmer looks like he's going to restart this race in 6th. Tom Johnson will restart in 5th. So keep an eye on both the number 56 and the number 25. Tom has had a pretty eventful race, but he's kept that fast repair in his back pocket for quite a few laps now. It'll be interesting to see what he can do now with a fresh number 56 GoPro Motorplex Chevrolet.
This is going to be it. More than likely the final restart of the race. And let's get a very, very quick caution. I really hope this one can finish green, and I think the 7 car has this.
In fact, Tom Johnson will restart in the 4th position, but Paskowicz, Capers, Billy Wise, Tom Johnson, Nate Catilla, your top 5. The race is in the hands of Kevin Paskowicz. 6 laps remaining at Martinsville Speedway. Paskowicz, great restart, going to leave the number 13 in his dust here going through turns number 1 and 2. He has that preferred inside line. Carlos Aries drivers are going to have to watch out for wheel spin coming out of turn number 2. We've seen it happen a couple times here tonight. Look at Kyle Zimmer. Zimmer's already up into the 3rd position. He's going to go around the 32 of Billy Wise.
We got a chance for the lead.
And look at Alan Capers going to the inside of Paskowicz. They're side by side. This is what Kyle Zimmer wants to see. We're 3 wide for the race lead with under 5 laps to go, 4.5 laps to go.
No.
Contact Paskowicz's side.
What a save!
He saves it. But he's in the outside wall. Caution is out. Who's won this race is Kyle Zimmer. Zimmer wins the race. How did he do that?
That is not something we wanted to see at all. 13 and the 7 made some contact right when we were 5 to go, so no chance of another restart. Then the 25 saw what was happening and saw what could have happened and decided that he was not going to finish second fiddle this time. And just shoved the 13, either intentionally or he was there and because he wanted to get this win. He already missed out on the last race on the last race at Charlotte. And he wanted to make sure that he could bring it home in first place.
Yeah, so really, looking back at that accident there, man, you saw that contact in the left rear between the 13 and the 7. I think it was just a situational thing because Alan Capers had the 25 to his inside, and he didn't want to brake too early because Zimmer was there, and had he braked early, that could have got the 25 into the 13. So the 13 had to drive it into the corner so deep that he made contact with the 7, and it was just one of those things where it was kind of a racing incident. It was go time, all these drivers trying to get the checkered flag here, and I know I've been put in that situation. Really, Capers was put between a rock and a hard place. Not quite sure whether the 25 or the 7, which one of those was the rock or the hard place, but the 13 found himself right in the middle of it. And unfortunately, that little bit of contact brought out the yellow flag here as we have just under 2 laps to go, and you know, Carlos, I can't wait for this new iRacing update, because this next iRacing update that's coming here pretty soon will bring us finally green-white checkers, which is something
fully confirmed?
that...
Last I thought they were working on it.
I think they said they were going to try and release it.
Well, don't tease
so,
me here.
I'm going to knock on wood here and say that hopefully within the next few weeks we will see green-white checkers, because I'd love to see how this thing would pan out with a green-white checker, but we are on the last lap here now.
Alright guys, it's the last lap. Everybody get your kazoos out.
I wonder how many people watching right now on YouTube or you know, throughout the iRacing world actually have kazoos, Carlos. I don't think very many. But hopefully Kyle Zimmer has a kazoo, because he's going to take it to victory lane. That number 25 machine led the most laps here today. Worked his way back up into contention with that last little green flag run. Things went his way, and he's going to get the win. I know Kyle Zimmer's had a couple of races get away from him. Last week in the B Car Series race, he had the race get away from him. Ran low on fuel, had to pit. I think early in the race I said that he'd won that race. He didn't win that race. But he's finally got a win here today. Hopefully that makes up for that strong run he had last week, but ended up not winning that race, as he's going to get a little bit of a nudge from the number 4 machine. I'm sure Nate Catilla, that's a congratulatory bump draft, slam draft, something of the sort. And Kyle Zimmer's going to light him up here on the front straightaway. And looks like the number 98, Christopher Burge, is going to do donuts alongside him. So good to see Zimmer going back to victory lane here at Martinsville Speedway. But here in just a minute, we'll have the interviews lined up for you, along with your finishing results. Pretty intense race there, Carlos. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I agree. It's very, very caution-filled, but these drivers, they're definitely trying their best. Martinsville is just a very, very tricky track, even for the majority of us. Just seeing these guys, every single one of these drivers finished the races. Let me go ahead and lower the volume. Every single one of these drivers finished the race, including Brian Lowhead, who was 20 laps now. So these guys, they don't quit. This is a challenge, but every single lap is a lap of experience for all of them. They don't give up, and they commit towards the end. So it's just fantastic to see everybody here. Hopefully have fun and see everybody here finish the race.
Yeah, and Brian Lowhead, he was one of the drivers. He actually wasn't able to finish the race, but that I think he had a little bit too much contact there. Wasn't able to actually finish this one. So tough break for the number 66. But yeah, definitely all the drivers did have fun. And it was an entertaining race to watch all the way up to the finish. As you see the number 25 go around and do the polished victory lap. Going around backwards. But Carlos, what do you think we dial up some of these drivers and get some post-race reactions?
Yeah, actually, I'm going to go ahead and step back into the booth and let you handle the interviews here for tonight.
Sure thing. Let's see if we can dial up your third place finisher Billy Wise here in just a second. As looks like Chris Roberge and Kyle Zimmer are doing a 2-car tango, nose-to-nose tango on the front stretch. If you can see that way down there, there they are. Trying to do a little bit of a tug-of-war there on the start-finish line. Looks like Chris Roberge won that battle. You have caught up with your third place finisher, Billy Wise. And Billy, you had some pace tonight in that number 32 machine. You were up and down the field. At the start of the race, you stayed out on old tires for quite a long time. But then once you finally did pit for tires, you got shuffled back in the pack. And it took you quite a long time to work your way back into the top 3. But you finally did so. Walked away with a top 3. Talk us through your race from your perspective, bud.
Oh, man. I'm just happy to get a top 3. I gotta apologize to all my teammates and the league mates. I was a little aggressive. I probably caused maybe 2 or 3 cautions myself, just being too aggressive. But you know, it's short track racing. It's Martinsville, and we had a blast.
Absolutely. Of course, we had about a 9-lap run into the finish. What was going through your mind in those last few laps? Because it looked like things got a little bit crazy out there.
Definitely, they got real crazy, and I was just trying to hold on, and I was just hoping for that top 3, trying to maintain my position.
Yeah, of course, this track is one of the trickier tracks we go to with, the fact that you have to use so much brake. How did you handle the brake today? Did you get to play around with the brake bias any? Were you able to tune the way your car drove using the brake bias? Or just tell us a little bit about that, because it definitely seemed like a couple drivers struggled with the brakes here tonight.
Yeah, to be honest, I kind of joined the practice a little late tonight, and I didn't get to mess with the brake bias at all. So whatever the setting is what I ran.
All right. Well, it definitely worked out for you because you come home with a third-place finish here tonight in Martinsville. But next week we have the trucks for this mixed series here on Monday nights, and the trucks are at Kansas Speedway, I do believe. What are your thoughts about Kansas?
Oh, looking forward to it. Always. We've been having some pretty good luck here in this league or this series. We've I think we're top 3 in both the K&N and the trucks. So we're looking forward to Kansas, and we're gonna go try to get a top 3 there too.
Yeah, coming into tonight, you were second place in points. Now, with Kyle Zimmer winning, I think he's going to leapfrog you. However, you're going to stay right up in the fight in points once this is all said and done. So, definitely awesome to see. The next K&N Series race will be at USA International in 2 weeks' time. So we look forward to seeing you there. But before we let you go, you got any shout-outs for us?
I would just like to give a huge shout out to Jeff Schmidt, the league owner. He does so much, man. He's got this cool league going on, and we have such a good time and such a great league. We're sitting there, even though this short track racing, it might look like we're getting mad at each other, but we're in team speak, just cutting up, having a good time, and having a blast. So just a shout out to everybody in the league, and you guys there in 3 Wide Racing.
Absolutely. Well, we have a lot of fun each and every week commentating you guys, and we know you guys have a lot of fun. In fact, this is one racing league unlike any other that I think I've seen before, where pretty much all the drivers are in a single TeamSpeak channel, which a lot of leagues I've been in, you couldn't do that, and that just speaks to the camaraderie that these drivers have here in SimPossible. But nonetheless, Billy, we thank you for stopping by here tonight, and we hope to see you again next week.
All right, thanks, man. We'll catch you next week.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, that is your third place finisher, Billy Wise, in the number 32 machine. Wise guys, definitely with a strong run tonight and doing well in points, like he said. Definitely great to see him doing well in points in this mixed series. But we have now caught up, I believe, with the second place finisher, driver of the number 13. He was your points leader coming into tonight's race. Not quite sure if he'll leave here as a points leader, as I think the number 25 will leapfrog him. But nonetheless, Alan Capers with another fantastic run here tonight. And Alan, kind of an up-down night for you in that number 13 machine, but you did show pace throughout the entire race. Very strong pace. In fact, I think you ended up with the fastest lap of the race out of all the scored laps, so that's pretty cool to see. But from your perspective, talk us through your race.
I tell you what, I hate that I got into him in that last bit and screwed that up. He deserved definitely a top 3, and I screwed him up. Hate that. But honestly, this is a wild track in this car. And if you get the line right, you can hold it pretty much wide open, especially coming off of here. And you got to catch it a little bit, but it's a blast to drive.
Yeah, now going back to that accident, at least from my perspective, and maybe this was going through your head or not, but you had the number 25 to your inside down the backstretch. He was looking on you, and I think you probably wanted to drive it in maybe a little bit deeper because of how close that number 25 was on your left rear quarter panel, and the number 7 in front of you just might have been in the wrong place at the wrong time because he seemed to come down on you just a little bit. I think it was kind of a racing deal there right at the end of the race, and with that last green flag run and that green flag being thrown with about 6 laps to go or so, what was going through your head at that point? Because I'm sure you didn't exactly want to get into what happened there at the end, but it was definitely go time, wasn't it?
Man, these guys are ridiculously fast. You can go run in open lobbies, and you could probably run 100 races and not find the quality of guys that these are. And the way that we race and the intensity that's out here on this track and the saves that these guys make, it's entertaining as hell to watch from inside the car. I can imagine what it's like being able to see all the cars.
Yeah, these guys definitely put on a show. It's a lot of fun to commentate, especially at races like this with a lot of action, because action was all throughout the field here tonight. But the next race we go to is a little bit bigger. It's the trucks next week at Kansas Speedway. What are your thoughts about Kansas, and what are your thoughts about the trucks as well?
I'll be high, wide, and Larson at that track. Outside, getting on that high side and letting the rough side drag. That's where I'll be, and hopefully I'll be in victory lane. I wish I was there tonight. But stuff happens. It wasn't intentional. Absolutely not. And honestly, if I could give him the spot, I would, but can't. But needless to say, I gotta thank all you guys, Free Wide TV, Peter, Cameron, Los, you guys. Without you, and Jeff too. Without any of you guys, none of this would be possible. And I just gotta absolutely thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for giving us a shout out. It's definitely a lot of fun, like I said. And we will see you next week, hopefully. And then in a couple weeks, we go to USA International Speedway for the K&N cars. Looking forward to that one as well. Well, Alan, we thank you for stopping by with us, and we'll see you then.
I appreciate it. We'll see you next week, and hopefully in victory lane.
Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was your second place finisher. Came into tonight as the points leader. Will not leave tonight as the points leader, with Kyle Zimmer winning. But speaking of Kyle Zimmer, here he is, race winner, driver number 25 machine. Kyle, you led the most laps here tonight. I'm sure there with about 15 laps to go. Last week, the B car race at Charlotte Motor Speedway was just flashing back through your head because you led the most laps there, but you didn't come away as the winner. However, things went your way in those final few laps. You got the checkered flag. Talk us through your race, because it was crazy there at the end.
Yeah, and it was definitely a wild race. Yeah, I didn't really want to think too much from last week after I almost won both races last week against the out, and almost did another one today. Yeah, over race, I mean, getting up the front, it was fun, and I noticed a lot of people probably having trouble off the exit of the corners, and I know I had trouble one pointer twice. I keep pointing to the corner was so important, and great lady can feel happy and get right off the groove. Basically trying to get constant laps, Had some long greens in the second half, and Kevin and Allen were definitely tough to away from them, try to keep on the lead. That was in the front. Yeah, and I made never won, I think not the prior race there, but like 2 years before. And I reached the green flag was really delayed, and I thought I was gonna green almost through the second line. I hit the ball kind of and really fought again in the next lap later. We lost a lot of time right there. And but Belly hit the ball pretty hard, and I thought he was gonna come to me, so I swerved for a little bit much, and my car just lost it. Tried to save it, and that's what I set up the last caution there. And so I decided to pit, and I actually got a pit penalty as well at the same time. I do not know how I got from that to get right back up the front like that quick. Like tires were probably pretty important, and the race. Definitely good battery at times tonight.
Well, definitely the racing gods were shining brightly on you because, yeah, going from 5th place to getting the checkered flag in just a few laps at Martinsville Speedway doesn't happen all too often. But like you kind of mentioned a little bit, when you had that delayed green flag, and looks like you spun your tires just a little bit, and all of a sudden you got your rear tires hot, and then it just kind of was a snowballing effect because you just started to get loose lap after lap. How difficult is that to control as a driver? Because Martinsville is one of those tracks where that happens quite a bit.
Ask him again, please. Ask it again.
Let's see if we can repeat that question real fast. Kyle, when we saw you get that wheel spin, it looked like you heated up your rear tires, and all of a sudden your car became a handful. And when it became a handful, it looked like it was just kind of a snowballing effect. That happens here at Martinsville Speedway. But what can you do as a driver to try and prevent that rear tire overheat snowballing effect from happening?
Give it a bit.
Well, not quite sure if we've lost communication with Kyle, or nonetheless, Kyle Zimmer had a fantastic showing here tonight. We'll be able to see, Kyle, if you can give us some shout-outs, because I'm sure you want to give us those shout-outs, and maybe talk about next week's race on the Truck Series side at Kansas Speedway.
Yeah, and at the restart, I spun the tires pretty good, and got some damage at the last point. I did a shift at time, and I really spun it really good, and kind of lost to hit the wall there. Got some nose damage, and I definitely, for that part, I should have hit gear quicker, the road spin the tires to take my car straight into the wall.
Yeah, definitely restarts are definitely troublesome, but nonetheless, you come home as the race winner. Before we let you go, you got some shout-outs for us here on 3 Wide TV?
Yeah, I'd definitely like to shout out to you guys, 3 Wide TV, proud of for everything that they have done. And I also want to thank Jeff for, without this, it would. I want to thank everyone who participated, especially with Memorial Day, and I want to thank everyone for their service too as well. Hope you enjoyed the race, and I also Passenger Motorsport, Papa Racing, for supporting me as well, and then been a good race, so.
Absolutely, Kyle. Well, thank you for joining us. And next week we got Kansas on the trucks, and in 2 weeks USA for the K&N car. And hope to see you then.
Hey.
All right. Well, that was your race winner, driver in the number 25 machine. I will leave tonight as your points leader. That is Kyle Zimmer. Led most laps, lightning quick machine all night long. He was able to get that win with a last lap, pretty much a last lap pass, at least the last lap under green flag racing, which is pretty exciting to see. And speaking about excitement, league organizer Jeff Schmidt is here. And Jeff, that was a pretty exciting race. There was a lot of yellows in it, but once again, another race where we were on the edge of our seats right to the end.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. Eventful would be an understatement. There was a lot going on. Some awesome racing as well. Short track racing is a whole different kind of animal. And with the track kind of warm tonight, it was a little slick out there. So it looked like even the most minor of contact could send that car around. So the guys did a good job with what they had to work with. And, short track racing is what it is. Most importantly, everyone had a good time.
Absolutely, definitely can hear that in the voices of the top three finishers. But we go from the short track here at Martinsville. Next week we got Kansas Speedway in the trucks on Monday night, and then we have the USA International Speedway back in the K&N cars in 2 weeks' time. Those should be two pretty exciting races, two very different races coming up on the calendar.
Yeah, USA, another short track, but it drives so much differently. I don't expect there to be as many cautions at USA as we've seen tonight. Of course, it could be. You never know until you get there. But it's a very different style of racing there. Martinsville is hard because it's such a flat track. And without that banking to help that car kind of stabilize, then yeah, you see the cars spinning a little easier, it being a flat track. USA has some banking to it, so even though that is a short track as well, and but has some banking, so I believe it's going to be a whole different style of racing. We're going to see something different. And Kansas, of course, is going to be much different as well. I expect that to have some pretty long green flag runs, and yeah, some good racing coming up in the future.
Well, it's kind of interesting that our next two races are Kansas and USA, because they're two racetracks that kind of race differently than a lot of racetracks in iRacing. USA has, the kind of a paperclip like feel, but it's a little bit faster than Martinsville. And then you have, Kansas, which is a highline fest. I mean, there aren't many highline tracks that where these drivers want to run the highline. That's probably due to the fact that it's variably banked. But I'm sure we'll see these drivers adapt to those two racetracks, and I'm looking forward to those races.
Yeah, no doubt. If there's one thing that these guys are good at, it's adapting to pretty much anything. And living with a disability in their life, they've already had to learn to adapt with many different aspects of their life. So I think it's kind of easy for them to adapt to different racetracks and get in the groove of different things. We've visited pretty much every kind of racetrack you could think of, from Talladega to road courses to Martinsville. So I mean, I'm glad that we get to visit all these tracks. I'm glad that the guys are able to adapt to them, because when we first started this thing, a lot of the guys didn't want to visit the short tracks or road courses and whatnot because of not really being afraid of them, but thinking that they weren't going to be able to do the best at them. And I think that even a lot of the drivers themselves surprised themselves with what they could do with their capabilities. And they're constantly progressing. Of course, tonight was different. I mean, with all the cautions and whatever, it's Martinsville. It's such a different experience. But altogether, everyone's been progressing greatly as racers, and have been able to adapt to pretty much anything that we threw at them.
Yeah, well, I'll definitely be looking forward to the next few races. But before we let you go, Jeff, you got some shout-outs for us?
Yeah, first and foremost, we want to show our respects to the soldiers, the men and women who paid the ultimate sacrifice to defend our country, to afford us the luxuries that we have and our freedoms. And unfortunately, for those that never got to make it home, we want to show our respects and also to the families of the military that have lost family members due to war and other things with that. We want to show our support for that. It's a rough thing, it's you can't be much braver than being part of a military and knowing that any day could be your last with what they have going on, and they do that for us. The things that we have, we should really be grateful for, because without them we might not have it. And we just want everyone to know that the league supports military, and our thoughts and prayers are there for the families of those who did pay the ultimate sacrifice. So first and foremost, that we want to let everyone know that we completely support that. And some people get confused about what Memorial Day is all about. Obviously different than Veterans Day. Memorial Day is for those that paid the ultimate sacrifice and has lost their life, and Veterans Day is for those who are serving and the living. So hopefully everyone understands that, and we wouldn't be able to barbecue and have our parties and do the things that we do this weekend without the military members. So thank you to everyone of them for doing what they have, and as far as I'm concerned, they deserve all the respect in the world for what they do. Thank you to 3 Wide TV for broadcasting us. You guys do an amazing job, man. It's always a blast to watch. Thank you so much. Thank you to the drivers and the drivers' families for being part of this. Everyone that watches on YouTube, everyone that supports us, we truly appreciate it. It's an awesome thing, and most importantly, the drivers are having a great time, and that's all that matters to me. So thank you everyone that has been involved. Thank you to Billy Wise for stepping up and becoming an admin of the league to help me out with all the awesome stuff that he does as well, with creating posters and promos and all that cool stuff. So thank you for Billy for stepping up to fill that role. And yeah, always just excited to visit the next race, man. Always excited to go racing.
That is true, and of course we have the B-Car Series race, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, but we have a B-Car Series race this Wednesday night?
We do. We're visiting Pocono.
And that should be a very interesting race here on 3 Wide TV this Wednesday night. We're going to race away the Tricky Triangle. All these drivers will be in action once again with the B-Car, so that'd be pretty cool to see. And looking forward to it, Jeff.
Thanks, Peter. And also congrats to Kyle. Man, what a drive at the end. That was very impressive. Haven't quite seen anything like that to make it back in the front just in the nick of time too. Great drive by Kyle to make it up there and to do it in a clean way as well. You know, it's one thing to kind of push your way through here, but to make clean passes is not the easiest thing to do at Martinsville. So it just shows what kind of talent Kyle has, and congratulations to him.
Absolutely. Great night, great finish, entertaining finish here on 3 Wide TV. Well, Jeff, we'll have to let you go, but before we all wrap things up here, we have the final finishing orders to bring up. And definitely an exciting race. There they are. Like we mentioned, your race winner, Kyle Zimmer, driver of the number 25 machine. Alan Capers finishing in second. Billy Wise third. Tom Johnson, the number 56, he battled all night long, came home with a respectable fourth place finish. Nate Catilla in the number 4. We saw that car in the wars throughout the night, but he comes home with 5th place. Fernando Matos comes home in 6th. Kevin Paskowicz, what could have been, but unfortunately we did not get any 777 kind of luck here tonight, but Paskowicz getting a little bit nudged there right at the end, sliding back to the 7th position. Chris Roberge came home in 8th, and Roberge kind of reached out to me after the race and said that was his first career pole here tonight, and unfortunately he had a mishap with a fast repair, ended up many laps down, but he stayed in it, did finish the race, coming home in 8th. Johnny Berardi finishing 19 laps down. He had suffered with some damage throughout the race, but finished his 9th. Brian Lowhead, the only driver to not finish the race that did start the race, he finished 20 laps down in the number 66. Well, all in all, a crazy race here tonight at Martinsville Speedway. Kept us on the edge of our seats right to the end, and it is driver of the number 25, Kyle Zimmer, taking the checkered flag. But before we sign off here, just want to give a few shout-outs. I want to give a thanks to SimTV for these awesome camera angles each and every week. And also want to give a shout-out to our friend Thomas Morris, who puts together all these graphics for us each and every week. A continuous effort by Thomas Morris to get these graphics for you guys, and they'll be continuously improving. So pretty cool to see. Make sure you stay with us here on 3 Wide TV. Give us a like, give us a follow, that sort of thing here, because things will only be improving as we go forward. But nonetheless, that just about wraps things up. We'll see you tomorrow night for the ASRS series, and Wednesday night for the SimPossible B-Car series from Pocono. I am Peter Short, and for Carlos Acosta, we bid you guys both a fantastic evening.